Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. We're going to be talking about NXT and what an NXT it was. March 14th, 2023. But first, there is a pretty important note for us to discuss. So, Sarai, otherwise known as Sari, has gone back to Japan, and she's left NXT. Of course, you've probably seen this all over the internet as, the WWE dropped the ball with Sarai. And they never really figured out what to do. And, a lot of that is true. She came in, as far as I know, she signed in 2020, which is, of course, the middle of the pandemic. She got caught up with, COVID restrictions and everything between the United States and Japan. And then there was also that very odd time where a lot of people, not gonna say everybody, but a lot of people who either signed to WWE at the time or were being pushed at the time. It was an upheaval. 2020 and 2021 was a very weird time because it was that Vince Triple H power grab thing where, certain people were being pushed out of the way. People were being called up and buried, kind of. And she had snuck in the back door. She and I think Ikem and Jiro not too long before her had been brought over. So this was around the time Vince kind of took over NXT. Well, Bruce Pritchard kind of took over NXT. She was able to do a little something in NXT. They gave her a really big push right out of the gate. She didn't go very far. But then she got sent to NXT UK for a short run, and then that's when things kind of hit the skids. Well, not just because she broke Mandy Rose's face, I think a little later on. But there was also a match with Meiko Satomura that was supposed to take place that did not take place. And there was very little explanation to why that match didn't happen. It was supposed to take place on NXT UK. And then the match was just canceled. So since August of 2022, Sarai has been under contract, but hasn't been doing anything. She hadn't been hanging around the Performance Center. And she definitely wasn't being used on TV. Her last match was in August of last year, 2022. So when her contract expired, she decided to go back to Japan and freelance. She was not fired. She did not quit. It was just her contract expired and she decided she wanted to do other things. Now, of course, a lot of people will notice that the Sailor Moon angle that they gave her, where she went back to Japan to recharge after she lost a couple of matches, and she came back with a magic medallion and all this kind of stuff. And some people were like, "Oh, they're ruining her. She's terrible." It's like, well, she's kind of a blandly competent Japanese female wrestler. That's just kind of how it look. WWE is always going to do that. They did it to Kushida. They're going to do it to other people too. When you're blandly competent, they're going to try to do something to make you interesting. So whatever that may be, it might not be exactly what you want. So you might want to have an idea of what you're doing when you do it. But when she left, she was very thankful and said she was glad she got an opportunity to go to WWE. She's only 26, so who knows? She might be back at some time in the future. I wouldn't bet on it, but you never know what could happen. I saw a lot of people thinking that she had quit. I saw a lot of people thinking she had been fired. Neither one of those things occurred. What happened is her contract expired, so she just decided not to re-sign, which is a lot different from getting fired or from quitting. But clearly there was a big issue. They probably knew she wasn't going to re-sign, which is why she hadn't been used since August. But they did a good job. They didn't really bury her on the way out. I think her last match was against Mandy Rose, and she lost it. So, but she didn't lose a ton of matches in NXT, if I don't remember correctly. I think she probably lost like 5 or 6, but she also didn't wrestle a lot. They tried to do something. They tried different things, but I think it was just a mixture of Japanese, English second language, 2020. They didn't know what to do. She fit in the new NXT system with, the rest of the very young talent. But then she was, saddled with having all this experience. But in some ways being more experienced than the people around her, because she had been doing that for so long, but not having the character. So in ways, she was more experienced, but she was also held back because she didn't have the character. So then when they tried to get the character together, people kind of complained about it, and it never really got over. But, it depends on your way of viewing things. I didn't really mind the golden medallion or whatever for Saray. So it was fine. But, it sucks that she's gone. I think she barely got started. She really didn't get much done. But, all right. Moving on, there's NILs and plenty of other people. There's definitely be some other Japanese women wrestlers being signing on at some point. So, I thought it was very nice that she said, no matter what anybody says, she said she did her best. So I'm like, what does that mean? No matter what anybody says. What does that mean? But it's, again, it might be English second language, misunderstanding of her statement. Anyway, let's talk about this Johnny Gargano story, why don't we? Because this thing is hot as fish grease. And I'm going to tell you this. I am one of the biggest Johnny Gargano detractors in the world. But this angle they did on this show, fantastic. Fantastic. Johnny Gargano's in the ring. He's talking about finishing his story. And saying that he left 15 months ago, his career ended on a cliffhanger because he got jumped by Grayson Waller and got taken out. And Grayson Waller took out the heart and soul of NXT, and he gave Grayson Waller a gift, which is that he waited. Because he waited because he respected Grayson Waller, just wanted to see what he could do. He said he has 2 chances to win the NXT title, and he failed both times. Then Grayson Waller got upset, disrespected the locker room, disrespected the audience, and disrespected NXT. And said that disrespecting NXT is what set him off, because NXT is his home for 7 years. It was blood, sweat, and tears. Then Vic Joseph leaves the commentary area to tell Johnny Gargano and to show him that Grayson Waller is live streaming from in front of his house. So Johnny Gargano, of course, is like, what's going on? He's looking at Vic Joseph's phone. Grayson Waller is just hanging out outside of his house. So he's like, I'm getting out of here. So he goes to run off to find Grayson Waller, who was hanging out outside of his house. At one point, we get a little video of Grayson Waller in a hoodie, black hoodie no less, sitting in a car, wondering if Johnny Gargano left his doors unlocked. He said he was being neighborhood watch. He was making sure nothing happened to Candace and Baby Wrestling in the house. And he said, what if you left the doors unlocked? So he went to go check. And of course, that was, mission fail. So Johnny Gargano pulls up to the house, and then they fight on the lawn. So this was very good. They got a little brawl on the lawn. They just kind of punching each other, whatever. Very interesting choice of dress for Johnny Gargano. He's wearing a white shirt, so that means he's rolling around in the dirt. You can see it, the white shirt getting dirty and everything, which is nice. So he's got Grayson Waller on the steps. He's punching him in the head, because this guy showed up at his house. Grayson Waller kicked him in the balls, and from there proceeded to beat the tar out of Johnny Gargano on his own lawn. He curb stomped him into a dirt pot on his own lawn. He even threw dirt in his eyes at one point. This was tremendous. This was tremendous. Then, of course, because it wasn't perfect. It was not perfect. It was not perfect. Candice LeRae. Candice LeRae was a wet blanket on this whole thing. Johnny Gargano is getting his ass beat by a guy on his own lawn. And Candice is in the doorway. Come on, stop. Stop. That's enough. Stop. What are you guys doing? Stop. And then the camera gets closer on her and she just becomes more like, stop. What are you doing? That's enough. Stop. I'm like, where's the passion? Why didn't she just take the baby back in the house and then come running back out? Like, where's the passion? Where's the intensity? Why didn't she didn't give a damn. She's just kind of like, hey, stop doing that. What are you doing? She sounds more annoyed than scared or frightened that this maniac showed up at her house. You know, I mean, I don't say she should go out there and get the blicky and start, going Sonya Deville out there. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is something needed to happen where, she should have shown more, fire. She was so bad. She was so bad. They did do a good job of having the baby cry. So the baby was crying while his daddy was getting his ass beat. So that was impactful. That meant something. But Candice's acting was god awful. It was generationally bad. Jesus Christ. You think she was an actress on that stupid BMF TV show. I'm talking the acting on there is, whoo boy. Man. Whoo boy. That was like high school community theater. I'm telling you, if you're watching that BMF show, you really need to stop it. Don't watch that. It's terrible. It's absolute pollution for your soul. But this was very good. 99% of this was awesome. The idea of, you got to give the guys some credit. The reviving the old guys go to your house angle. I like that. NXT needed to do something like this. This show set a standard that I'm saying to myself, these people care about heat. They care about intensity. They care about what's going on. You compare this to the main roster where there's feuds that's been going on since January to have no heat, like no storyline at all. And they started doing this week. Like, you could complain that, maybe Grayson Waller escalated a little too quickly from, being sort of annoying to being stalker. But for Christ's sake, it ruled. It worked. It worked. It made me 100% more interested in this match than I was before. And my interest in this match was not zero, but it was near zero. But now it's pretty damn high. And it takes humility for a guy like Johnny Gargano to get beat up and, on his own lawn. And I'm not under any belief that it's his real house. I don't care if it's his real house or not. Kayfabe is his house. So he got beat up on his own front porch. That's meaningful. That means something. Hey, that's good shit. Anytime a wrestler show up at another guy's house, I'm almost always down for that. I'm a stickler for that one. I'm okay with that. The on-site beefs, and I'm gonna show up at your crib, or what was they doing? I think it was NXT UK or something like that, where a guy was just following him around. Like, it was like every time he stepped foot in the performance center, they was fighting. They was fighting in the aisleway or whatever. Add some intensity to this. That was very good. All right. So that was very good. This was also kind of good. So Wesley is, of course, going to have an open challenge for this show. Axiom met him at 12 o'clock in the afternoon while he was out, grocery shopping or something like that. He's about to go to the spa or something to that effect. And Axiom says he's not going to miss this open challenge, so he's going to hang around with him all day so that he won't miss it. So that means they hung out with each other for 8 hours or whatever. Anyway, JD McDonough and Ilya Dragunov decided to yell at each other in the ring. I'm not going to go into any real detail about it outside of, basically because they said the same thing they've been saying before. They've had a long rivalry. They're tired of each other. JD McDonough thinks that Ilya Dragunov followed him to the United States. All this kind of stuff. They basically promised to end their feud next week. So we'll never have to watch these two guys fight each other again until the next time they fight. But that turned into a wild brawl because, of course, it did. Also, before we go too further, I gotta stop. Give Ilya Dragunov his turtleneck points. Crispy white turtleneck, fluffy. Don't hate it. He's wearing the Omos turtleneck. I'm not mad at it. He's a Homo sapien. Yeah, turtleneck supremacy. Anyway, Dragunov and JD McDonough, they're fighting backstage. Wesley says something to JD McDonough and gets punched in the face. So now it's a 3-man brawl going on out here. At some point, Wesley separates himself from the battle, from the fight, to have the open challenge. So he goes to the ring. Now let's pause momentarily one more time. So Wesley, in his entrance, he's got an anime Dragon Ball inspired picture on the Tron, and I thought that was very neat. I am getting a little agitated, as an anime fan. I can't get too agitated because I'm like, hey, I love Dragon Ball and stuff too. But knowing that Sammy Guevara also has that, I'm kind of like, okay, guys, I'm going to need you to get a personality outside of I like anime. I'm going to need you to do a little bit more than that, okay? You just do a little bit more than I'm a big fan of Dragon Ball because, Dragon Ball is a worldwide property. Just about everybody loves it. All right, so to double back a little bit more earlier, there was a vignette with Scripps. They haven't given up on Scripps yet, where he was talking about masks and having his eyes on one particular person. So all this converged in this segment because the open challenge, Wesley gets in the ring. Axiom breaks free from the pack. He slides into the ring, only for Scripps to attack him and knock him out. Like, Axiom and Scripps, I think, had a match a couple of weeks ago. And apparently now the angle is that Scripps is obsessed with Axiom. And, he's stalking him, I guess. So that happened. So JD McDonough got into the ring, and he seemed like he was going to take him up on the challenge, but then Ilya Dragunov attacked him from behind. So Wesley gets knocked down by JD McDonough. Essentially, the match is kind of thrown out. The match didn't even actually happen. Wesley jumps from the ring, of course, into the pile of people who are fighting outside of the ring. Takes everybody out. So then later, Shawn Michaels has his hands lovingly around the neck of Wesley, it looked like some weird stuff was about to happen. I mean, the way he had that hand cupping the side of that neck, like he was about to pull him in. And I was like, wait, Shawn, why are you so affectionate? You're too affectionate, all right? Just put your hands in your pockets or something like that. Like, just come on. Anyway, Shawn rightfully is complaining, or he's gently complaining, that Wesley is turning NXT into a parking lot because these guys are fighting for these spots for this open challenge. It's chaos. It's got to stop. And Wesley is like, nope, can't stop, won't stop, because I want to prove myself. And then HBK like, you don't have to. Like, yes, I do. I want to give opportunities like I was given an opportunity. And then he says that Stand and Deliver, he wants to give opportunities. He wants to give 10 people an opportunity. And Shawn's like, 10? Like, I can't give you 10. And Wesley starts to really kind of almost blow a gasket because he wants to have 10 opponents. So Shawn says he got 5. He gets to pick 4 opponents. So he says he'll make it a fatal 5-way. And Wesley gets to pick the 4 guys. Okay, so I liked the wrinkle that Wesley gets to pick the 4. That's a decent twist. But I'm not a fan of it because you already got this ladder match on this show, which we'll be talking about in a minute, where you're going to already have a bunch of people in one match. Like, this is classic throw everybody in, like, it's like going to a house and there's jambalaya and gumbo at the same time. Jambalaya on one eye, gumbo on another eye, beef stew on another eye. It's like, oh, okay, you fucking with me now. Like, you just like pot meals, okay? I get it. But nobody has this stuff all at one time. Like, pick one, please. Pick one, please. All right? But they decided they're going to have gumbo and jambalaya at the same time. I'm not really a jambalaya guy. I'm allergic to shrimp. Not really a gumbo guy. I'm allergic to shrimp. I'm a beef stew guy, though. Beef stew rules. Very good. But the Fatal 5-Way is going to be invitational. They say it's an open challenge, but it's not going to be an open challenge. It's going to be invitational because you got to get picked by the champion. So I'm guessing he's going to at least pick Axiom. Hopefully it's not Axiom and Scripps, but or JD McDonough and Ilya Dragunov. I hope those aren't the 4 guys. I hope it's any other 4 people. I do not want those guys in this match. But I don't get what I want, do I? No, I don't. No, I don't. But at least Wesley's going to be on the big stage. I don't know what's up with them in this multiple man stuff. I think it's such a ridiculous cheat code. We don't know what to do, so we're just going to do multiple men. 5 ways, 6 ways, triple threats. I'm like, oh my God. Ugh. It sucks. But we're stuck in this timeline where, you can't get a good, solid one-on-one wrestling match anymore. You got to throw a bunch of other people in it. Somebody's got to be in it just to take the pin because we're pushing some of these guys, so somebody's got to take a loss. That sucks. So, whatever. All right, so the first actual match on the show was Gallus versus Pretty Deadly for the tag team titles. And this was a week where my dad actually watched this portion of NXT. He watched the first, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. So he was, of course, appalled by the way Pretty Deadly dressed and how they talk. But he quickly got over, and he actually got into this match. And a match I was barely even paying attention to. And I'm telling you, my dad's 65 or whatever. And when, what was it, Mark Coffey got hit with the belt, and he was being pinned. And the amount of seconds my dad said, wow, when he kicked out. And I was like, is he actually watching this shit? Like, I didn't know he was even watching this show at the time. Like, I knew he was in the room, but I didn't know he was paying attention, So apparently he watched it all the way through, and he seemed to enjoy it. He was like, yeah, you should have lost there. I'm like, okay. Yeah, he should have. I kind of like Gallus, but I'm always for Pretty Deadly winning. So, Dad approved of this match. It was okay. It was all right. Wrong team won. Anyway, later on, Pretty Deadly announced that they will be the hosts of NXT Stand and Deliver, which is perfect, but it also puts them in the Miz position. So you know what that means. They got all the personality in the world. They're going to cheat a lot, but still manage to get beat up and or lose. And they did that in the closing segment. They came out there and got beat up because reasons. Oh boy, not good. All right, so let's get to our soap opera segment, which also was kind of fun in a way. I'm not going to lie, I didn't hate this. So Briggs shows up dressed like a character out of Duck Dynasty. He's wearing like the leaf suit or whatever. And Fallon Henley, of course, she looks like a regular burglar. All right, so she's like a common burglar. And he looks like a assassin from like Hitman or, something out of Metal Gear, Solid Snake or something like that. So she's trying to tinker with the key lock. He just opens the door to Kiana James's office. So they're in Kiana James' office, going through her papers and everything. They go through her day planner and find out, she's, talking to Zach and all this stuff with Zach. And then they find out about this guy named Sebastian. That apparently it was a Sebastian who sent these flowers to Kiana James. And the note says that thanks for the date and the morning. So everybody was like, ooh, what's this? So they go through the planner and, Fallon Henley finds out that a lot of this was a scheme of Kiana James to get, Jensen to like her and to be tag team partners with her and everything, even though it was her idea. Even she had to admit that, and it was her idea. That, this was a part of Kiana James' setup. This is some kind of conspiracy that she's got going on in here. But she wants to know who the hell Sebastian is. So they went snooping, and they tried to find something on Kiana James, and they found some stuff. She ended up taking some pictures. She took pictures of the evidence, and they left. So Kiana James is part of this women's championship qualifier, and she's calling Fallon Henley on the phone because she wants Fallon Henley to be in her corner. That's what she really wants. She wants Fallon Henley to be in her corner. So that doesn't work. So Jensen is there saying he offers to be in the corner. Kiana James is like, nope, that's okay. I don't need you. So he, wishes her luck, moves in for a kiss, and she just kind of turns away. And I was like, oh boy. Ooh, that hurt. That one hurt, didn't it? So Kiana James, her opponent is Gigi Dolan. So Gigi Dolan wins the match. But this is what I really liked about this episode is we got to tie so much stuff together. So Gigi Dolan wins her qualifying match. The other qualifying match was Sol Ruca versus Zoe Stark. Sol Ruca, after they did, I think, 2 weeks of vignettes about Sol Ruca wanting to beat Zoe Stark, how did that go? She lost again because, Crater Face has to get the push because that's what we're doing now. We're pushing Crater Face Zoe Stark now. So that's her. That's what we stuck with now. All right. Not just that though, because they also did a triple threat tag team match to decide who's going to be the number one contenders for the women's tag team titles. And the winners were Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, defeating Kaden Carter and Katana Chance and Tatum Paxley and Ivy Nile. Now, there's also a ton of story here because Tatum Paxley turned on Ivy Nile. So now I got to separate all of this stuff. First, let's deal with the women's qualifier. All right, so the women's qualifier is occurring because Roxanne Perez was stripped of the women's championship after she collapsed last week. They did a vignette on this show where a doctor says that she wasn't dehydrated. She doesn't have any heart or brain issues or anything like that. They can't really identify what happened to her. And since there is no estimated date to return, Sean decided to go ahead with a ladder match at Stand and Deliver. And they're really leaning all the way in on this storyline with Roxanne Perez. And I'm gleefully impressed that how much they've gone into this. So Roxanne's not going to lose her smile, but she's going to have the title taken away from her. And she's likely going to return proclaiming herself the real women's champion, which was going to do what? Lead to another ladder match? Since we're doing all the Shawn Michaels angles all of a sudden, Roxanne Perez lost her smile by fainting. And then she's going to come back and get a ladder match, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, that's why we're doing the qualifiers. So Zoe Stark and Gigi Dolan have qualified. Now, I'm fine with it, by the way. I would have preferred Tiffany Stratton and Roxanne Perez one-on-one, but apparently something has probably happened. Maybe Tiffany Stratton is injured because they didn't even mention her. And if she's injured or if she can't go, maybe that's why they wrote off Roxanne too, and just save the match for some other time. But or maybe Roxanne is really hurt and she worked through it and now she's going to get a little bit of a break. Or maybe it's just an angle. Who knows? In any event, we're doing I don't think they said how many women are supposed to be in this match. So I don't know how many. Is it probably 4, maybe 5? I don't know. In any event, they did the triple threat match for the women's tag team titles. Tatum Paxley refused to tag in on Ivy Nile. So Ivy Nile was pinned in this match. She kept yelling at Ivy Nile that they weren't a real tag team. Now, of course, this goes back a couple of weeks where Tatum Paxley was looking up at the Diamond Mine logo, and she was sort of taunted with the idea that she wasn't a member of Diamond Mine. And then you had these sort of the speaker stuff with Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, but ultimately this felt like it came out of nowhere. Ivy Nile was another one where she was brought onto the main roster right around the time NXT 2.0 started, and she was being booked as being they even called her, I think, at some point like a bulldog or a pit bull or something like that, where she looks tremendous, but that halted. Like when she went over to NXT UK to wrestle Meiko Satomura, she lost her first match over there. It didn't seem like a big deal because it was Meiko Satomura and it was for the title or stuff like that. But she has been in the ghetto of NXT for months now. And it really has made no sense for Ivy Nile to be treated the way that she is. But she's treated awfully in NXT right now. And I think that she's another one where she was probably a Vince McMahon situation where they wanted her more than anything because of her look. And then they decided they was going to shit all over her because Ivy Nile has been in NXT for like 2 years now. Haven't done nothing is embarrassing. It sucks. And the only storyline she's had so far has been this one with Tatum Paxley. So, anyway, Ivy Nile loses. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire are the number one contenders for the tag team titles. Okay, good. Are we all caught up now? Fine. So, Kiana James defeats Gigi Dolan. Kiana James was looking for her tag team partner who was snooping around in her office at the time. Once the match was over, Kiana James was in the ring. She got snatched out of the ring by Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, who proceeded to stomp the life out of her. Jensen had to run down to the ring to save her. So, Kiana James got jumped by the number one contenders for her title, essentially. Backstage, Kiana James is pitching a bitch because Fallon Henley was not there. When Fallon Henley eventually shows up, she's complaining about having 9 missed calls. Why the hell is Kiana James calling her so much? So Kiana James informs her, I had a match. You should have had my back. Fallon Henley's like, well, you should have told me about said match, even though she knew about the match because she was snooping around in Kiana James' office. Fallon Henley continues to play ignorant, like she didn't know about the qualifying match when she did. Fallon Henley is then surprised to know that there was a fatal 4-way match to decide who was going to be the number one contenders for the tag team titles, and it was won by Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, and they are the ones who jumped Kiana James. So, at that point, they are deciding what they're going to do, and Fallon Henley knows about Sebastian, but now is not the time to bring it up, because there's a lot of other stuff going on. But Briggs, of course, still showed up dressed like, Duck Dynasty guy. And it was all very convoluted and weird. But I thoroughly enjoyed this part of the show, too, how everything came together to make sense. This is good writing. Everything comes together to make sense. Even though the characters are kind of green, they aren't really the best when it comes to promos. But everything comes together. The women's tag team championships are caught up in this soap opera and also caught up with the women's championship. The night raid into Kiana James's office, I thought that was pretty funny. That really got over with me. That was another one where I was like, okay, they're doing some on location stuff. They're going to, yes, you'll be asking the question, why is there a camera there? That's always going to be the question. And when you're overthinking these things, why is there a camera in Kiana James' office? Why is a cameraman watching them rummage through her stuff? Why is a cameraman watching Johnny Gargano fight on his porch? You're asking too many questions at that point. It's a TV show. All right, TV shows, cameras are there. Why was there a camera in the goddamn cafe with Seinfeld all those weeks? Come on. So it was a fun batch of segments. Now, Gigi Dolan would be my favorite to win the ladder match and thus win the title. But we had this JC Jane promo where she talked about separating her shoulder 1 minute into the match. Therefore, Gigi Dolan did not defeat her while she was in 100%. So then she said she's going to spend the rest of her time out with injury, thinking about ways of breaking Gigi Dolan's heart and then breaking her face again. And something tells me that they're going to have the ladder match, and what's going to end up happening is JC Jane is going to end up costing Gigi Dolan the match. She's going to pull her off the top of the ladder, hit her from behind with a chair or something to screw her out of the title. I can just see that part coming. So even though Gigi Dolan is, if you asked me, of the two that I know that are in this match so far, who would be more likely to win, I would probably say Gigi Dolan. But knowing that JT James probably going to, come back, and she doesn't need both arms to screw her out of a match. So that's how I see it happening. So also, let's talk about this now. So Bron Breakker, he's backstage, and Tony D'Angelo walks up to him. Tony D'Angelo says, hey, I saw Carmelo Hayes. Do you want me to do something to him? And Bron Breakker's like, what? He's like, yeah, we could take him to the parking lot, hit him in the kneecap with a pipe, hit him in the bicep with a pipe. And Bron Breakker starts going into all of the stereotypes, like, yeah, let's go do some Godfather Sopranos type stuff. And, he's mocking Tony D'Angelo and Stacks. So ultimately, he just told them to leave him alone. He's got this thing handled. So Tony D'Angelo watches Bron Breakker walk off. Then he says, hey, it's time for some gold in the family. So Stacks thinks that Bron Breakker is about to be a target. And Tony D'Angelo's like, nah, we're going to leave Bron alone. So then he thinks, okay, we're about to go in for this open challenge. He was like, Tony D'Angelo's like, nah, how about the tag team titles? And Stacks like, really? Like, yeah, you and me. And he's talking about rewarding Stacks for his loyalty last week. And I was like, that's interesting. That's interesting. And for a second, I actually forgot who the tag team champions were. But I like Tony D'Angelo and Stacks as a team. Okay, that's cool. I definitely think Tony D'Angelo probably should have won one of the singles titles by now. But him being a tag team champion with Stacks sounds fun. It's something for him to do. And he definitely deserves to be a tag team champion by now. He probably should have been North American champion a while back. Or NXT champion. But, Sean is doing what Sean do. I don't know what's up with that. But he's doing it. So Tony D'Angelo wanted to bust the kneecaps of Carmelo Hayes. Was very interesting to me, though. I did like that. Because why would you, as a babyface, suggest to another babyface, I guess, that we're going to bust his kneecaps? And I believe that Tony D'Angelo is a babyface now. All right, babyface gangster. That's weird, right? So Thea Hale is backstage, and she's doing stretchy stretches, yoga, or whatever with Tyler Bates. So this is Tyler Bates, reality now. He's the yoga karma guy, the man bun guy, the Southern California hippie guy. He's going to be the guy who tells you all about holistic medicine and a bunch of other new age mumbo jumbo. He's that guy now. So him and Thea Hale are doing yoga. Meanwhile, behind them, Duke is still frustrated about Chase University and all of the losses by saying that people judge you by your wins and losses and that they need to win more. Andre Chase says, you know what? You're correct that, people are judged by wins and losses. And he says that was until Chase U was founded. Then he said Chase U is a feeling. It's a place where he found his purpose and where Duke found his purpose too. Then he says that Duke was at one point a degenerate gambler who got his head shaved. Now he's actually legit excited about wrestling and excited about life, has a positive outlook, and says that maybe Chase U did more for you than you were willing to think. And they kind of left us with that. They just kind of left us with that sentiment. But not before, Duke looked up after Andre Chase walked off, and Ava Raine was standing there. So they're teasing Duke Hudson and Schism. I don't know about that. That doesn't entice me at all. I don't know if I want to see dark and brooding Duke Hudson. I know we're kind of lost in the woods of what to do with the guy, but I'm not entirely sure at all that we want to do the Schism thing with him. I'm not entirely sure we want to go that route. All right, so later we got Dragon Lee. So Dragon Lee made his official debut, in-ring debut rather, at a house show wrestling Eddie Thorpe. Eddie Thorpe is I think Carl Fredericks, of New Japan fame. So they really just kind of threw him in. I'm guessing they're going to save the breakout tournament for these guys. That's why they haven't showed up on, been doing too much. But Dragon Lee actually speaks a lot of English. He speaks more English than I thought he did. For Christ's sake, I didn't know he spoke so much English. So essentially, his whole thing is he's there to be an example of the excellence of Lucha Libre, which seems to be a generic character they give every luchador. And I was like, oh boy, I'm here to be an example of Lucha Libre. I was like, oh boy, that feels like literally everybody comes in to be an example for Lucha Libre. But it was a good first promo, and he said he's going to like it here in NXT. All right, here's hoping he does. I hope you really do, buddy. We got a match that I really wasn't looking forward to, and I don't know if this match is even announced for tonight. Dabba-Kato versus Apollo Crews. And it was better than I thought it was going to be, but I still was like, no, I don't care. Apollo Crews was choke bombed on the flat stairs and then choke bombed on the ring and pinned. I don't know why we just couldn't let the choke bomb outside the ring go for a count out so they could have a rematch. Because what are we doing with Apollo Crews otherwise? What are we? I don't know. But Dabba-Kato wins. All right, so there's that. All right, let's talk about this closing segment. A very respectful debate between Carmelo Hayes and Brian Breakker. A contract signing that ended up with the host getting beat up because they were being very, very annoying. So, Brian Breakker and Carmelo Hayes, I'm not going to go blow by blow for this, but they gave each other a lot of credit. Carmelo Hayes gave Brian Breakker a lot of credit for maintaining the legacy of NXT, being very responsible with the title and defending it, and being a tough guy, saying that he wants that, the Brian Breakker that was a destroyer that busts through walls, and he doesn't want the fisherman, the smiling on posters. He doesn't want that. He wants to fight Brian Breakker at his best to show him that it's not enough. While Brian Breakker appreciated Carmelo Hayes and how he elevated the North American title to make him think that it was the A title, and he appreciates all the good things that Carmelo Hayes has done, but he was all about making the North American title the A championship, knowing that he wasn't ready for the big belt yet. And he says he wants the Carmelo Hayes that is ready, the one who thinks he deserves to be there, the one who is him. So that was pretty much it. They were about to go their separate ways respectfully when Pretty Deadly, who had come out there to host the segment because they're the host of the Stand and Deliver, they kept trying to instigate them into fighting. So they kept saying, we want some drama. You got to give us drama. Please give us some drama. So then Pretty Deadly got beat up and put through a table. So, yep, they're full on Chelsea Green, Miz situation right now. Where now we're just going to beat them up every week. Okay. Okie dokie. I like the talking segment. I felt like we could have, I think it ran a little long. I don't know why it was so long, but it was. It could have fit. I think this was part of the overrun. I think it went maybe 5 or 10 minutes over. Probably didn't need to go over. Probably didn't. Probably could have cut out Dabba-Kato and Apollo Crews and fit this right into this show. That's just me, though. So, that was fine. All in all, this is a really good episode of NXT. I thoroughly enjoyed it. A lot of the stories were interlinked. You can see that they're building things on top of each other. It's good sometimes for things to have their own little breathing room, but it's also good for sometimes for things to overlap. Characters are involved with more than one thing. Somebody like Kiana James is involved with more than one thing. Somebody like, Wesley is involved with more than one thing. So it makes sense for you to be doing more than one thing with them. Kiana James has 3 angles running. Women's tag team title angle she had running, the qualifier angle she had running, and the is she cheating on Brooks Jensen angle that they've been running. So there's different layers and different ways for you to showcase that character, and I like that. I can appreciate that. So NXT was very good. Unfortunately, I sat back and I was waiting for a tease that they did last week. So the tease was Cedric Alexander had actually teased being the opponent for Wes Lee on NXT on this show. And I was really hoping that it would be him. Because for Christ's sake, if there's anybody who needs a second breath in NXT, it's Cedric Alexander. You know, Cedric Alexander needs to be in NXT like nobody's business. He needed to be in NXT 6 months ago. I mean, I don't mean he needs to be the North American champion, even though I wouldn't be mad at that. He just needs to be in NXT, right? He hasn't been on Raw in weeks. And even before that, he hadn't been on Raw in weeks. I think he did win the last match he was in on Raw, because that's when they brought back the Hurt Business with Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. But if they're not gonna do the Hurt Business, send Cedric to NXT, man. He can put on banger matches. He can develop a personality. He didn't get to spend a lot of time in NXT in the first place. I know Apollo Crews was another one. He didn't get to spend a lot of time in NXT, so they sent him down there. He got a nice run. You know, could have been better if they didn't make him, I don't know, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but whatever. You know, Cedric Alexander, he needs this. He needs this bad. There's quite a few people who need this NXT run pretty bad. You know, but Cedric needs it bad. I mean, he needs it really bad. Shit, he needs it terribly. You know, but maybe they'll send him down there after they do some call-ups at WrestleMania, but he definitely needs to go down to NXT. Also, NXT's they got a lot of injuries, they've written a lot of people off TV. I don't think I noticed that until the whole Roxanne Perez thing, but I think 4 women have been written off TV over the last month. You know, Wendy Chu, Nikita Lyons is legitimately injured. But Roxanne Perez, now JC Jane, that's 4 women have been written off TV. I think Ariana Grace is also injured. You know, there's a lot of injuries. You know, like heavens to Betsy, what the hell's going on? Why are there so many people hurt? You know, I don't know. Tiffany Stratton disappeared. She didn't pop up on here. They didn't even mention her. So that got me thinking that she might have been injured. Of course, they ended up losing Mandy Rose because they ended up having to fire her. So it's like, wow, they decimated at least the female part of the roster. When they mentioned Duke Hudson getting his head shaved, that made me question, like, where the hell is Cameron Grimes? Like, where did Cameron Grimes go? Like, there's so many people who just, like, are either injured or they just vanished. I saw a story that says that Roderick Strong is still under NXT contract. They just haven't been using him. I know he probably because he asked to be released last year at some point. So maybe they're letting him sit his contract out. Maybe that's the same thing they did with Saray, where they probably, you know, she probably let them know that she wanted to leave, and they just probably, all right, just sit your contract out. But there's a lot of people that have gone missing in NXT for the last several weeks. It's actually kind of disturbing. I'm kind of, you know, starting to question what's going on. But of all of that, of all of the Zion Quinns, where's that guy? You know, where the Lash Legend go? Where'd all these people go? I know some of them are probably on, you probably say to yourself, well, they're on Level Up. Oh, okay. So I was thinking about that, you know, and it reminded me of a clip I saw on Level Up, by the way, about your boy Quincy Elliott, who I thought for sure was going to get shit canned from WWE. I thought he was going to get fired. This is a guy who was, you know, shit talking his coworkers under burner accounts on Twitter and Instagram, etc., trying to be a diva stan and basically tripping on people like Cameron Grimes and others. And he is an incredibly toxic individual, not just a toxic person, because to me, that's not enough. He is a shit wrestler and an absolute bona fide gold star weirdo. And if you don't believe that, then look up the clip of him using his man tits as a weapon. He's got, I don't know who it is in the corner. I forget who it was. but he's like pulling his shirt and he's hitting him in the top of the head with his man boobs. And I'm just like, I can't. First start, everybody is stunned that Quincy Elliott still has a job after the nonsense that he started, where he kind of, shit on everybody. Everybody's kind of surprised anybody wants to continue working with this guy. But I'm sitting here looking like, why would you even think to do that in a wrestling match? In what way could that possibly hurt someone? You hitting them with your chest cellulite. You're beating people with adipose tissue. That is not going to hurt them. And he's got him in the corner, like, the 10 punches to the head, but he's like dipping his boob on this guy's head. I'm like, what? Why does this exist? Sean, do you not see this? Like, I know you probably only got one good eye at this point, maybe one, but you really do need to go over to the Quincy Elliott part of the performance center, pull his coat, take all of his stuff out of his locker and put it next to whatever car he's going to get into, or throw it in the ocean, one or the other. Quincy Elliott has no business being on the roster. Okay, none. He never had any business being on the roster. This weirdo who is like some mixture of Goldust and Mabel, we don't need him. We do not, never needed him. And all of the people who were defending him and fans of him before because he's a diva fan, he's a diva stan, and of course, the LGBTQIA silent P, all of those people loved him, but now they hate him because he was hating on all of their favorites. So now nobody likes this fucking guy. So why is he there? He's not a quality pro wrestler. He doesn't have a dynamic look. He doesn't have bundles of charisma. He can't really talk. Now this is all just diversity stuff. This guy is one of the worst individuals in the history of NXT and thus the business. He is awful. The fact that he is still on TV and still not just still employed, but that he's on TV. Look, if you want to quietly release him, I'd have been fine with that. Now I need to see him the best of future endeavors in order for I believe this guy was actually fired. Like, I don't know. Maybe he got suspended. Maybe he got a stern talking to. Maybe he had to apologize. All of that is perfectly fine. If those people are like, okay, but you can't apologize to me for being shitty. All right. I don't care about, I thought he might have been fired because that roster and that locker room was kind of soft. So I figured, hey, he pissed off the wrong people. He's going to end up getting canned. Apparently not. All right, fine. I mean, this dude, clearly he comes out even in his own debut. Like Missy Elliott, I can't stand the rain. He wearing a big trash bag and everything. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Why would you sign this guy? What athletic talent does this gentleman have? It'd have been one thing if he was like a bundle of charisma. He was just a big fat kid, but he had tons of charisma. He didn't even have a lot of charisma. He's just a big fat gay kid. And it's like, oh, so that's just what we're doing now. Put the kid in some makeup and we got ourselves our diversity hire. That's the only answer I have to that question is he's got to be a diversity hire. And thus, we can't get rid of him yet. Otherwise, I wouldn't even bring him in to do jobs. Quincy Elliott is useless. Get rid of him. And of all the people that have disappeared from NXT, why Quincy Elliott isn't one of them is beyond me. He's awful. He's the shits. He's the shits and a half. He's the shits and a hat. He's not good. And he's a whole lot of not good. He's a whole lot of not good in a big body, right? So that's a whole lot. He's big back, not good. Pork belly, not good. All right? Tripe, not good. He's just not good. All right? It's disgusting. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Do all the YouTube things. I appreciate it. Peace out.